Welcome back to the session number 10, video number 3, Estimate Cost. Estimate cost process is another critical process within cost management knowledge area. The second process, estimate cost process. Estimate cost is the process of developing an approximation of the monetary resources needed to complete project activities. The main purpose of this process is estimating the cost involved of each activity in the project. Estimates for each activity is made in this process, and the amount of cost required to complete project work is determined by abbreviating the cost of each activity. Costs are estimated for all the resources that will be charged to the project. So it includes the labor of the personnel or labor of the team members of your project. Materials you will be using, wood, steel, and other equipments, for example. If you're working in a construction project, or tools if you're working in a software project. For example, if you will be using a specific testing tool, the cost of the testing tool should be included. Equipments, contingency, if there will be risk in your project, have to be accommodated into your cost plan. And for those, you have to allocate reserves, continuous reserves for those risks have to be included. These are all estimated and included in estimate cost process. Estimating costs are similar to estimating done in time management, or rather schedule management. So we are familiar with this process. We have gone through the important points of estimating in schedule management. But here I will go over the important points of estimating again in order to ensure that you understand estimating costing for your project. But I will not go in detail of each bullet point. These are some of the important points that you need to remember about estimate cost process. Estimation should be based on work breakdown structure to improve accuracy, because work breakdown structure was the overall snapshot of your project. It was including the work package delivered to our clients. Estimation of an activity should be done by the person doing the work, because it changed the activity's duration and also the activity effort, activity cost of an activity. Therefore, the performer should make the estimates. Historical information from past is key, because you will be able to compare a similar activity with your project activity. How it cost in previous project? Was there any deviations? Did you exceed the planned cost? Answers to these questions will definitely help you to be effective in your cost estimates. And most probably it will cost similar to you in your project. Therefore, historical information is important. Cost baseline should be taken in the beginning and should not be changed. Except change request, the baseline needs to be kept the same. Because baselines represent the initial planning, the initial planned values of a project, in order to make measurements of various analysis in your project and then take corrective actions. You should not change your baseline frequently, except there is a change which will result in the change of baselines. Change should be requested when cost problems occur. For example, let's say you are over budget and you have to take your corrective actions. Then this corrective action might be a change request. This is an example of change request. When cost problems occur, project manager regularly recalculate the estimate to complete in order to check whether you will be able to still meet the cost baseline or schedule baseline of a project. You have to regularly calculate estimate to complete. By this way, you will be able to check whether you are still on track as you plan in your baseline. And if there is a problem, if there are deviations, for example, if you are over budget or you are behind schedule, you have to take corrective actions. There's a process for creating the most accurate estimate. And these processes, these steps of estimating should be followed in sequence in order to make accurate estimations in your project. If there are requirements coming from your customer, for example, delivering the project in 6 months within 1 million cost, and if there is agreed with the customer, you have to meet this schedule requirement and cost requirement of the customer. Estimates can be decreased by reducing risks, because if there are risks associated with the activity, those risks include time resource and cost resource in order to accommodate them when they occur. And if you can't eliminate the risks associated with the activities, you might be able to reduce the estimate of each activity respectively. Cost of all work needed to complete the project is estimated, including cost of quality efforts. Depending on the quality requirements of your project or product, there will be cost of quality associated with the quality of product and the project. Cost of risk efforts depending on the remaining risks after you have completed your risk management activities. Cost of project manager's time. Every project needs a project manager, and project manager will spend a lot of time managing the project activities. Therefore, the cost of the project manager needs to be considered for your cost estimates. Costs directly associated with project. Example, training, papers, pencils, and other equipments will need to be estimated too. Cost of offline expenses. There will be certain costs that will occur outside the project. However, these costs will have a link towards the project goals and the project objectives. Therefore, such expenses will have to be included into the costing estimates of your project. Costs directly associated with the project. So we discussed that, and then cost of offline expenses was the last point we discussed. In addition to that, we also need to consider profits when applicable. During the project, have you made any profit? Will you plan any profits during your project? So all that need to be estimated during the estimate cost process. The other thing that you need to consider is overhead costing. Example, salaries paid to the shared services, management salaries, general office expenses. All that have to be included into your project or product cost estimates. There are four types of cost in projects. First one is the variable cost. There are costs that change with amount of production or work that you carry out. For example, wages of the people working in your project or the material that you are using in your project. If you are increasing the number that you will be working on, consequently, the total salary that you will be paying to your workers will increase too. Similarly, if you are decreasing the material, the cost of the material that you will be paying to the suppliers will decrease respectively. Therefore, these are variable costs. Fixed costs do not change as production change. They will stay the same. For example, rental cost of your office space will not change based on the nature and the size of your project or the number of employees working in your project. Setup costs are also examples of fixed costs in project. Direct costs are directly attributable to the work on your project. For example, waste materials because the people actively working in your project and their rates are directly incurring as cost in your project. Similarly, materials are directly used in your project and the cost of those materials that you are using in your project are directly including in your project. Those are examples of direct costs. On the other hand, indirect costs are overhead items or costs incurred for the benefit of more than one project. For example, taxes. For example, security of the company. Let's think a security sitting in front of the office of your company and there are eight projects that your company is executing at the time. That security man sitting in front of the office of your company is not actually generating any revenue for your company, but he provides the security of the overall company. So it has a cost to your company. Therefore, the security man incurs costs to all projects. Estimating. Tools and techniques used in estimate activity duration process, which we have seen in time or schedule management knowledge area, also can be used in estimate cost process as well. If you remember, techniques that were used in estimate activity durations process were one-point estimate, analogous estimating, parametric estimating, and three-point estimates. Since we have seen this during schedule management knowledge area, I will not be going over in detail of these techniques. Schedule management knowledge area, which is a bottom-up estimating, we will see this technique in estimate costs as well. First step of bottom-up estimating is detailed estimation is done for each activity or work package. You define the cost of each activity, each work package in this step. How much each activity will cost for your project. Second, These estimates are rolled up to find the total cost of a control account. Then, by summing up the cost of all these control accounts, you can find the overall project cost base estimate. And the most important point of this bottom-up estimating technique is it requires an accurate work breakdown structure because all the estimation is done from the bottom level of a work breakdown structure and costs are aggregated to find your overall project estimate. Contributors to the creation of estimates. Contributors to creation of estimates. Project management software can contribute to the creation of estimates by speeding up the calculations. Since cost of each activity is estimated and these activities are rolled up to find estimate of work packages and control accounts and overall project estimates, and if there are lots of control accounts in your project. And respective loss of work, because loss of activities, calculation of the overall project budget might be different. If you do it by manually, and project management software can ease up these calculations for you in your project. Therefore, they can contribute in creation of estimates, determining resource cost rates. Since you will include the cost of the resources in your project, this should be a contributing factor in creation of your estimates. Reserve analysis. How much cost you will associate for the remaining risk in your project. These are all defined in reserve analysis. And the final one is the cost of quality. How much money you will be spending in order to meet the right quality expectation is another contribution to estimate costing. Accuracy of cost estimates. When you estimate the cost, it's essential that certain level of accuracy is agreed and maintained during your estimations. Estimates in early phases of a project are less accurate than those made later in the project. That is due to the fact that at the early stages of your project, the information you know about the project, the activities you do, the risks, assumptions, limitations are very limited. And therefore, your estimations might not be so accurate. This needs to be agreed by all the stakeholders and the clients. Also, the estimates must be in a range. It's quite unrealistic to give you a specific figure. Always, the estimations could be within a given range, but ensure the range is appropriate enough for the project context. Ranges are wider in the beginning of the project and will narrow as more information is determined during the project. Why you need to estimate using a range initially is due to the fact that you don't know a lot of information about the behavior, company ethics, the project context, etc.